Okay.
This is for the people that tune in after. I have about 5 people that tell me they're taking the class after the fact.
Oh, they must be super bored.
So they missed the last class then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did not stream the other day, so we did not stream that. But we were primarily kind of going over and reviewing some stuff, explaining some other things, so. Okay, so page 86 in the workbook. Peggy gets to start off.
Oh, wait. All right, I'll read it and
Yes.
that's it.
There you go.
Wait, what?
Well, we still had 2 more questions.
Oh, we had 2 more questions
But, we don't have.
on the bottom of page 85.
Yeah.
Yes.
D,
Okay,
5D.
11.5D. Okay. So sometimes the passive is used with no
Agent.
agent expressed.
Right.
11.6, the student should be aware that some verbs take their objects in a case other than the
Accusative.
So akouo takes its object in either the genitive or accusative case. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. I'm stupid.
That's okay. So they're just saying one additional case, not like any other case.
No, it is usually just one other case. In the present active indicative, arco is translated I rule. However, in the middle, archimai is translated I begin and is often followed by an
Infinitive.
and that makes sense, doesn't it? Because an infinitive would be to. So I begin to run, to cook, whatever we're going to say. So that makes a lot of sense. If you have something in a context that's clearly inferred, then you can say I begin, but normally you're going to have to complete the thought I begin what? And you're going to, and the infinitive oftentimes answers the question what, and the way it works. I was just going to make one additional comment on that when it talks about objects in the case other than the accusative. In Galatians 2, you have the faith of Christ. And I remember we had a pastor when we lived in Iowa that always was talking about Christ's faith, that Christ had to have faith for us. But that is not what that's saying. Faith, the noun faith, not the verb believe, but the noun faith, it takes its object in the genitive case. So the genitive describes the object of faith. So so we would translate it, and I tried to explain that to them, and he goes, it's just a genitive, so it means it belongs to him, which meant he only had a very rudimentary understanding of Greek, because he should be able to understand a lot of times the genitive indicates description. So it's faith concerning Christ in that case.
What verse are you?
It's
Galatians 2.
Galatians 2. I'll open this Galatians 2 and let's see, this is verse 16. Knowing that a man is not declared righteous from works of law except through faith concerning Jesus Christ. It's not Jesus Christ's faith, it's your faith concerning Jesus Christ. And we then have believed into Christ Jesus. In other words, we indeed have. In order.
So he was treating this as a person is not justified by the works of the law, but by Christ's faith in the person.
Or whatever that meant. I don't remember how he explained exactly what Christ was having faith in. And so the last part, in order that we might be justified from faith concerning Christ, not Christ's faith, but he wanted it to be Christ had faith and we were justified because he had faith.
I'm really wondering what translation he was using.
He might have been using the King James, because I think in the King James, I think it says Christ's faith, or faith of, it says faith of Christ, I think is what it does. So he was just taking the of in that sense. But that's just to illustrate the point down here that you are going to have, you're going to, what? King James, I'm gonna guess. And I don't know. Remember, this is 30 years ago. So I just remember having this discussion with him after church.
So can you repeat that? I kind of got lost in it, what you're trying to say. What was the discussion again?
Well, the discussion is 11:6 is telling us that there are verbs that will take their object in a case other than the accusative, such as the word akuo that takes its object either in the genitive or accusative. And so then I was just pointing out we have other words that are like that too. So we have nouns. So in
Galatians 2:16.
Galatians 2:16, where it says faith of Jesus Christ and faith of Christ, it's talking about not Christ or Jesus's faith, not him believing something, but faith concerning him. So the genitive with faith,
Yeah.
so faith concerning him would be the idea there. And there's
Yeah, so it's not faith from, it's our faith in him, right?
That's right. And see,
Okay.
we would say that we would say our faith in him. It's just that the
Right.
Greeks used faith in the word in the genitive case differently than we do.
It is.
What?
It is.
Faith of Christ. Yeah. So that kind of leaves it open. That's a literal rendering, but it doesn't explain to you what
Yeah,
it
genitive.
it leaves it open. So
It's still a genitive case though, right?
it is. It is a genitive case. So it's just, again, what we're doing is we're trying to bridge from our language that uses words this way to a language that has its own idioms. And we all know that if there's idioms that we say in English, I'll use those with the Spanish people. Like, I was talking to Alberto at our church last week. He and Jose Luis were practicing some songs, and I came out and asked them if they could help me with my washing machine for about 3 or 4 minutes. I needed somebody to lift the thing up while I hooked the spring up. And I said something, and I realized when I said it, I used an idiom we used in English, and they both were looking at me. And I said, "You don't understand what I just said." And Alberto is always nice. He's smiling, going, "No." He's not, and then he's going, "No." And I had to say this. And I said, in English, we sometimes say this and we mean this thing here. And then he kind of laughs. He goes, "Oh, like, okay." And
Yeah.
poor Jose Luis, I think he was really confused because his English is very
Okay.
minimal compared to Alberto. So,
So we're going to talk about this a little bit more.
sure.
So if that's the case, that sometimes a verb is going to take its object in the genitive, for example, then how do we know?
Well, again, I
Is it
think
a
it's
context thing?
going to be a context thing. You're going to find out the inclination, I think, when you translate it, is going to be wanting to take that as an object. It's going to kind of seem like it's a natural flow of what you're saying. Okay. So let's look at an example here. I want to pull this up, share my screen. Where's my workspace? Let's pull this up. And let's put up Kuo. And okay, so let's take let's look at first one that comes up here, Matthew 2:9. It's not the first one that comes up, but it's the first one that uses a
Say it again, Matthew.
Matthew 2:9. It's the first passage that uses a genitive. Matthew 2:9. It says, "But the ones hearing," this is a participle here, so you don't recognize the ending on the word akuo, but the ones hearing. Now, how would you translate the next part? How do your Bibles translate it, first of all?
After they listen to the king.
The kingdom.
So to basileos.
So when hearing the king, And yet, if you actually looked at it in the Greek, you could see that the word king is in the genitive ablative form here. So after hearing the king, and we would say hearing the song, we would think that that would be an accusative. Now, this is a case where they're saying it's genitive. There's a possibility, and I may not understand this as well. There's a possibility that this may be ablative, so we might translate hearing from the king. Does that make sense? I've heard from the king. I've heard what the king had to say in that way, which really you're saying
Which, how would you translate it in the genitive?
well, you would just hearing the king, like your Bibles translate, just hearing the king.
I see. So it's in the genitive, but it's functioning as the object of hearing. What did they hear? They heard the king.
Right. And see, normally the thing that
Rather
answers the
than
question,
hearing
what is the accusative
From
case?
the king, right.
Right. Just trying to see if I could find another one here.
I mean, 'cause I feel like that would make hearing from.
Right.
Is that a third declension ending or what?
Yeah,
Um,
Basileos.
For king there.
Yes. I don't know. What
It is.
declension
I think it's also what we call a contract ending. We're gonna end up with some contract
Okay.
words for the ending. But yes, I believe this is third declension here. Masculine third declension. I was just gonna see if I could find another one here that would illustrate this better. Maybe I'll have to come back with this.
It's for
next
sure
week.
not first or second, Joe.
No, it's definitely not. I just don't. I'm just going to third because unless there's a fourth and a fifth and a sixth, I don't know.
No, there's three declension or
Okay.
I'm just looking here. I apologize. I should have looked up some
You
others.
didn't know
of
we were
these.
going to go down this rabbit trail.
It's all right. This is
Because in that John 3:16 that you mentioned also, it was also a WS ending on pisteos, in a
Yeah.
pisteo.
You can't see my face, but I'm being funny.
Matthew 17:5. Here's one. Here's another example. And again, your English Bibles, you're going to see the way. So it says, while he was yet speaking, there was a cloud that overshadowed him. And behold, or look, there was a voice out of the cloud saying, this one is my son, my beloved one, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. And you guys all know out to him, genitive case. So he's telling the people, this is my beloved son, listen to him.
Okay, fine.
So it's the very last word in verse 5 in the Greek.
And that al kuete is an imperfect active indicative, right?
No, it's
No?
it's a present imperative.
Oh,
It looks very much like a present indicative, but it's an imperative. So he's charging them to hear. So
okay.
yeah,
Imperative
hear,
indicative.
listen to him. And we would say listen to him. So it almost sounds like we're talking about a dative.
So we haven't gotten there yet, but what's the difference between imperative and indicative? Like, in
Imperative,
endings? I mean, I understand in meaning, but what in
in
ending?
what?
In ending?
In
'Cause
ending?
the same. It looks the same.
It does here. And when we get there, you're going to see that you're going to have some And I'm trying to think about what the difference is between the imperative, present imperative ending, present indicative ending. And it's not
Probably got- I
accent.
was just probably got to do with accents, which we don't even
No,
think about.
no, it's not that. I'm just gonna have to come back to that because I'm trying to think how the imperative endings sketch out. So,
Because it's not even what we're talking about today.
okay,
Aquate autu. So autu is the genitive, but it is the.
yeah. So a good,
And that just makes sense because how would we, if you were just translating it as a genitive and not making it the object? We all listen from him, how to? No. Genitive is belonging to, of him.
and there you go. Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. It seems rather natural that we want to translate it.
From, right.
To him,
Yeah, listen to him.
but it's natural that we want to translate it, hear him, listen to him. No, it's that's the way the flow of the sentence when we're translating it, we want to go that way, even though, yeah. So, okay, I need to leave myself a note here.
Yeah.
It smells good. Okay, so, okay. So here we go. I think we can get a couple of these exercises done. We started a little bit late because we were having a good time visiting. So top of page 86 under our exercises number 1. And Peggy gets to read this for us now. So
Kai genetai ta eskata to anthropu akainu pirana tone proton.
okay. So Kai is
And
And
and Genitai
come into being.
he, she, or it becomes.
okay, he or she becomes. So we would, if we're just translating it very literal, we would still first say and becomes. We don't know what the subject is yet.
Okay,
Then we have ta eskata,
the last.
the last or the end. Okay. The end or the last. And then tu anthropu
Of the man
of the man.
or the person
Mhm. A kainu,
that
that. So that one, the man, that one.
Hmm.
Kairana, and they've actually helped you with this.
Worse
Worse
than.
than. Tone proton. The first. Okay.
of the first.
So-
Wait. Was of the first?
Worse than the first. Or
So, and the last of that man becomes worse than the first,
right. So now you put
Wait,
it
no,
for,
say it again. And the
and the last of that man or person, I guess, becomes worse than the first.
okay. Or to put it another way for us in English, the end of that man becomes worse than the first.
The last state of that person. is worse
Yes,
than
the
first.
last state of that man is right. So we're kind of jumping into we're taking a statement out of the context here, but we're talking about the last state of that individual. And
right.
if I remember, does anybody have any idea what the context
I
is?
remember because I went back and looked at it when I was trying to translate the sentence.
Mm.
And it's an unclean spirit returning.
That's right.
Yeah, condition, state, or circumstance,
So
the
I
last
really feel
condition.
Could we even translate that properly without the context? I don't understand how
I don't know that
you
you-
where they get.
I think you could translate it but it wouldn't necessarily make any sense. And I think the context is going to inform what you're going to state. So he's saying that Jesus casts one demon out of the man. If the man doesn't do anything, doesn't make any changes, like doesn't believe in Christ, and there were people that did that, that's what he's warning them of. There were a lot of people that had demons cast out that never changed their lives. So after Jesus is gone later on, it's not just that that one demon is going to come back, he's going to come back with 7 others. So now we've got 8 demons in this man. So he says, and then comes to be, or the end of that man, or the last state of that man, it then is worse than the first state. The first state was 1 demon in him. Now his last state is 8 demons in the man. Okay. So that's,
So the last state,
and we're kind of adding the word state in there for some clarification. I don't know that you have to, but I just think maybe it makes it a little bit easier. Or the last condition of the man.
Condition, state, or circumstance.
Exactly.
Right. Now that ta escata, then the adjective is then in a substantive use, right? Then
Yes, yes. Because that is an adjective, but it's being used as a,
so the last one,
yeah, yeah. And that's why we're
and
saying,
but we would need the context to get to state, which is how they translate it here.
well, they translate last state. Yeah,
Right, yes.
sure.
So, but for us, looking at it without context,
Exactly.
it has to, we would just say the last one.
Yeah. The last one of the man. What? The last what of the man? Or related to the man. We don't know. But I would agree state or condition is. good
My
way to-
end point came to, and the last one becomes of that man was in first, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No. But if you,
and tone proton would also be substantive, right?
it is substantive.
And first.
Okay.
So in A, is to anthropo genitive or ablative? It's
Genitive.
because it, well, the question is, what is the significance of that case of the phrase in this particular sentence?
It describes the subject's last state or condition being that of the man or the person.
Okay. Yeah. So the genitive is there modifying escata.
Mhm.
Genitive is descriptor. B, what use are the adjectives escata and proton? You already kind of answered this for us, Joe. They're both functioning as
Substantives,
substantives, which
functions as nouns.
noun, there we go. That's the more common word that we tend to use. Grammarians use the term substantives, but most people when they take English or something, it's a noun. So they're functioning like a noun. Any other questions on that verse? Other than that, we all agree, you really need the context to kind of flavor how you're going to give significance to the eschaton, the proton in that case. Wow. It just took 2 sprayers and, well, 4 sprayers actually. I don't know. They're spraying oils on all our trees out there. Not our trees, but trees behind us. Okay. Sentence number 2 or exercise 2, Robin.
Well, okay. Hey, aletheia didasketai and tois logois to apostoli. I have not done any work on this yet, so. The truth.
Okay.
Didasketai. I'm having a hard time. Okay, so we're in middle or passive voice on that one. So it goes mon sai tai. So he taught himself.
Okay, that would be
That was
middle.
taught.
That would be middle. Or what?
That was taught.
Was taught.
Okay,
Okay.
so the truth was taught.
Or is taught.
Or is taught. Yep, sorry. We're not passive. I mean, past tense, is taught in, let's look, voice, the words of the apostle.
Okay. So this is a good example of didaskatai. Middle doesn't work here because the truth doesn't teach itself. It's not an active teacher. So this is a good place where you can demonstrate this passive makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
It's an impersonal means, right?
It is. And then we have entois logos to apostolum, and there's a couple ways of handling that. It could be by means of the words or in the words. So it's taught in the words or by means of the words. And then it could be the words of the apostle, or we could take it as an ablative, the words that come from the apostle. Those are decisions that we have to make in there. I translated it very loosely by just saying of the apostle.
Yeah, that I said the truth is being taught by the words of the apostle.
Yeah, that's the way I did it. But I probably, for clarity, would say the words that come from the apostle. If I were teaching this to somebody else, I would want them to know that these are the words that the apostle spoke. That's what I'd be wanting to communicate in some way to them, just for clarity. And it's, to me, I'm always surprised in teaching. I've been teaching Bible studies 35, since way back when we were in college. So I don't know, 35, 36 years. And I'm always surprised sometimes when you say something that just seems very plain to you, how other people do not understand it. And sometimes the problem is they're looking at their English translation in their Bible, and their Bible says this, and they go another way. So that's why I don't think it ever hurts to try to bring some clarity to what you're trying to say. It may not help, but sometimes it does. So, and I trust all of us want to do this, not just for us to study the Bible, but for us to be able to share it with others a little bit more carefully.
Yep.
Okay, so A, what two factors confirm that aletheia is the subject of this sentence?
It has a definite article. And
Nominative case.
And both,
yeah.
both the ending and the article are in the nominative case form. Why does N not have an accent?
It's
We have two types of words. We have enclitics
proclitics.
and proclitics. Proclitics, they're attached to the word that they are before. Enclitics are the words that are before them. Okay, we shouldn't use the word before twice. Enclitics are the words that they follow. Proclitics are the words that they precede. Okay, so this one is a proclitic. It's connected with tois, with the definite article. So in other words, a Greek person would have pronounced this almost together. They would have, and I don't exactly know what that would have sounded like.
Proclitic comes before, enclitic comes after.
Yeah, so it loses
I don't know.
enclitic. Enclitic, it follows a word. Proclitic, it precedes a
Okay,
word.
gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a proclitic, and it loses its article or its accent. The accent goes with the whole expression there, entois. C, is apostolou masculine or neuter in gender? And on what would you base your answer?
Well, masculine, I guess, based on the definite article and the lexical form of the word.
Okay. Now,
Am I wrong?
you're correct, but your answer is not completely correct because true apostolou, the article is the same for the neuter and the masculine.
So my answer was only partially.
It's only
correct.
partially correct. So we get the partial points. Yeah. So the lexical form, if you look it up, is ha apostolos. So we're basing it largely off of what the lexical form of apostolos is.
I did say that.
Yes, yes, you did. That's Cece. You got credit for that.
So what didn't you do?
I also said that it was the definite article, but
Yeah.
the definite article is the same in the
oh,
masculine and the
okay.
neutral.
Okay, number 3. Is everybody ready to move on to number 3? Okay, so number 3, Joe.
Okay, ha pistos, adelphos, sosetai, dia tu, mathetu tu kuriou. So, the faithful brother is being saved through disciple of the Lord.
Okay. I'd say that's pretty good. I don't.
It's an intermediate agent.
Oh, dia. Yes.
Dia, through, right?
Right.
Or by, well,
And let me look. So let's talk about that. That is at the top of page 87. It has this dia used to the genitive, ablative, or accusative case in this sentence, which,
I put genitive,
okay,
and the disciple is the intermediate agent through which the brother is being saved by the Lord, right?
right. So yeah, and that's the point. I don't save a person, you don't save a person, God saves a person.
Right.
So here, agency is it's being saved through the agency. In other words, in order for a person to be saved, what's one of the things that has to happen to them? Or that has to happen first, that you and I play a role in.
Share the gospel.
We have to share the gospel. Paul says that. They can't be saved. They can't call on him if they haven't heard. They have to hear.
And the
Okay.
Holy Spirit. Mhm.
Right. So you and I are simply in a dia. We could put in there dia and put our name in there. We are simply an intermediate agent in providing the gospel by which they're saved. And whether that's what Ray Summer meant when he created this sentence for us or not, I don't know. That's the way I would understand it. Sodzetai, we have in this case the tie ending, because I don't think we have that as that's not one of the questions. That ending is
It's third person plural.
third person plural. What's the voice?
Wait, I'm sorry.
It's a present passive indicative.
Present passive. Okay. So if we took it as a middle, we'd say the faithful brother is saving himself. That's the way we'd say that. But
Hold on, I'm confused.
okay.
He said third person plural?
Oh, third person singular.
Oh, singular, I'm sorry.
I sometimes I'm hearing what I think is I'm supposed to hear. Yeah. Yeah. So third person singular. So the faithful brother is being saved through the disciple of the Lord.
He is being saved.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And if it was a middle, we'd have to translate it. He is saving himself, or maybe it's an intensive. He himself is being saved, but probably this is why a passive makes more sense, because the rest of Scripture would say you don't save yourself. We have a couple verses that actually sort of say that, but well, one of them is in Acts 2 where he's talking, but he's telling these people what they can do. They can save themselves by believing. It's what Peter's telling them to do. So, but here I would understand this to be as a passive. Okay, so A, how can you be sure that pistos is in the attributive use rather than the predicative use?
But the article ha precedes the adjective pistos.
It does. So the predicative use would be, if we had pistos separate without a definite article. So we'd have ha adelphos pistos. We translated the brother is faithful.
Mhm.
Then top of page 87, number C.
Okay, locate kuriou. It's a noun, genitive, singular, number. It's the original agent. It's masculine. Lexical form is kurios. Kurios in the second declension.
Okay.
So hold on, function in the sentence you said is the original agent?
Right. The Lord.
Okay. I'm just making sure I heard you.
And
It's not the, yeah.
I don't think that that's what it is. I think
It's
what
not, it's the,
no,
okay.
I think it's modifying the disciple. So he's not saying original agent. He's saying through the disciple of the Lord. So it's, in other words, we'd say through the Lord's disciple is what he's doing.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't,
Yeah, true.
he's throwing something altogether different in there. So it's a simple genitive that's modifying who
Modifying disciple.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're back to number 4. Peggy Ann.
Okay. Cardia gar pistuitai ice dikai sunain. Oh, that's it. Okay.
So-
Righteousness.
So cardia is,
In the lid case.
okay,
Mean heart.
okay. And gar, we translate
I don't remember.
for,
Or,
That.
okay? And I believe point or question B in the exercises is why is gar the second word of the sentence, and yet it is translated as the first,
Positive.
post-positive,
Hmm.
for in the heart or with the heart, I think is the way a lot of your English Bibles will translate it, because they're looking at it as an instrument. And then pistuitai,
Has something to do with faith.
pis- okay, okay, but it's a verb,
Leaving unto existence.
okay, and the ending is it active or passive or middle? Is it a middle
From
passive
self.
ending? What? Okay. Okay.
So hold on, pistuitai is what now? Believing?
Pistuo is to believe. So
Pistuo.
pistuitai then, my saitai, methesthuntai. So we're looking at the middle passive endings.
Yeah.
It for
So, okay, so this is, we have a question here then. No, you're fine. We translated active for with the heart, man believes.
with the heart.
Yeah, and I'm kind of going with the way
Because that's where you make
a lot of English translations are going to represent it. With the heart, with the heart, a person believes, or with the heart, he believes in the righteous. And they just translate believes as an active voice. But because there's a personal interest in here, you personally are doing this believing for yourself. I think middle makes a lot of sense. He himself is believing, or he believes for himself. I think either one of those would be acceptable ways of translating it. Either he himself believes, or he believes for his own benefit.
so it's not because of the heart then, or it's himself. You consider his heart himself then? Or
No,
herself, the person?
because if we look at question number A, is cardia dative, locative, or instrumental? That's what we're asking.
So locative or instrumental would be how we're answering. it.
Right. So he's not believing for the benefit of his heart, which would be dative.
Or by means of the heart?
He could by means of, yeah.
Right.
By means,
Instrumental.
And that's when most English translations say for with the heart, and they're
That
tr-
means
using
instrumental.
they're using with in an instrumental sense.
Mhm.
And you could say
Still
in the heart, he's
middle though, right? You're still using this as a middle voice?
doing- pistuitai is, yeah.
Right,
Yes.
so, but pistuo is not one of these. Right, so it has to be. So if I understand, okay, like we go back to when we were talking about the ones with the D by them, and I can't remember the word. for it
Deponent.
now, the deponent, right.
Mhm.
So this word is not a deponent, which means that it has an active voice. So we can't translate it as just he believes or is believing.
Mhm.
It has to be, because of the ending, it has to be middle. He's believing for himself, or he's being caused to believe
Possibly.
Right.
Oh, well,
by passive.
Isn't he being caused to believe with because of his heart? It could be passive though, right? Or no?
Yeah, but I don't think we ever have causative forms of the word faith. And actually, it wouldn't be cause. Passive wouldn't be cause to believe. Passive would be he is believed. And you have an example of that in 1 Timothy 3:16, where it says about Jesus Christ that he was believed on in the world. Passive form of the word, he was believed on in the world. So people believed in him. So it's 1 Timothy 3:16, one of the parts of the mystery of God, godliness there. I have to pull it open because I just want to check myself. I don't want to steer you wrong, but I'm sure that that's a passive. 1 Timothy 3:16, confessedly great is the of godliness mystery, which was made plainly visible in flesh, passive, declared righteous by the Spirit, passively seen by angels, passively heralded among the nations, passively believed on in the world, passively received. So there's a whole series of passives. They're all things that were caused to happen to the Son during his earthly ministry. And one of them is that he was believed. People believed in him.
so now I'm even more confused than I was.
Well, this is not passive. I would take that this is middle in this case. You
So-
believe for your own benefit.
Because it was passive, it would read out.
Right, if it was passive, how would we?
It would say, for in his heart a man is believed, like he is believed on by other people.
Oh.
That's what's saying about Jesus. He was believed on in the world. People believed in him.
Has nothing.
Yeah,
No action, it's the action's done
to him.
So.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there are causative endings, but this is not a causative ending. So
So unto righteousness.
and unto or into righteousness. Yeah, unto, it makes more sense than into.
And
Very
we're
good.
saying the heart or his heart, but that is not what it says either.
Right.
What? Sorry, what?
Well, because cardia is in lid case and there's no definite article, so it's not the heart.
So
It's
Oh,
not genitive, so it's
Ah,
not his
so-
heart, it's
For.
with
so-
the heart,
with heart. Okay,
with
that
heart,
makes
with
more
a heart,
sense.
right, that's why they put the that
Well,
in there.
I think what
because-
it's doing is it's making a general statement. It says for by means of heart, which doesn't make sense to us, but by means of a
Makes
quality of
sense to me.
heart. What?
Makes sense to me.
Okay, just,
Or by-
Person.
yeah, he believes for
Or
himself
he
into it.
himself believes or believes for his own benefit unto righteousness.
Right. And I cheated. I put a
Oh.
the in front of heart, but then I put a bunch of a couple of squiggly lines under it just to let me know it's not part of the original translation because I can't write in italics. If I were typing this out on my
So
computer,
why?
when I add a word, I put it in italics. Why would I
we
add
keep
it?
using masculine. He can it be a person
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
sure.
he, she, oh, yeah,
He,
okay.
she,
so
or it.
he, she, it.
or a person person himself or herself believes into righteousness or what?
Or sometimes when I'm trying to, when I do that, because you're talking about men or women, I just say, for with the heart one believes. You can say a person.
Oh, that's
believes or
good. One.
Yeah.
Yeah. One
I'll make
believes,
that better.
but then you still have to put in a,
Themselves.
you still have to put a themselves. And even though you used to get dinged on using a plural pronoun, it's now considered
It's-
acceptable
It's
English.
politically correct. In fact, it's,
Yes.
it's considered
in-
proper.
considered-
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
Do this.
It's crazy. We
Okay,
changed things.
so for by means of heart.
Yeah.
So since there's not a definite article in front of it. I.
Well, it's still you're using the heart, but it's just he's just not making a specific statement about
By means of.
the heart. He's just saying in a general sense, by means of heart, one believes unto righteousness.
Well, why
So
put it in?
Now, I can't always answer that. That's one of the challenges of interpreting is why something is included or omitted. And I don't have the answer for you.
So to make it clearly a middle, could we say one themselves believes unto righteousness?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Then it
One-
would be clearly middle.
one themselves believes or one believes
I just
for
put him
himself.
because I understand. I'm not one of those thinglings.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
Mike's not concerned with gender.
I'm okay with that. I'm just.
I know what it means.
But just what
For
what
old
Joe's
school,
asking
yes,
is just
yeah.
trying to give some sense of the middle.
Yeah. Okay. For by means of heart. So that's where you make your choices.
Right. Yeah. He's just not specifying. He's just not bringing specificity to it. Is all.
So
by
it
leaving
could
out
be
the-
for by, no, never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna start interpreting here,
Yeah, I know.
not just translating.
Yeah.
We could talk about the interpretation later.
So this is instrumental,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. You could say
The
it's,
way we're
it takes
using it,
place
yes.
in the heart, but I think instrumental is a little bit more clear.
How can you be sure? Because.
Because it's definitely not dative.
Well,
we're sure it's
Right.
not. native.
Okay, but if we go,
Don't you do that.
no. If we go back to hupo, dia, and the instrumental form at the end of towards the end of the lesson, hupo indicates direct agent, dia intermediate agent, and the instrumental form indicates impersonal agent. Well, the heart is impersonal. The heart's not a person. It's a part of a person.
Impersonal agent.
So I said it is expressing the impersonal means by which one believes. The impersonal instrument.
Wait, what?
I'm gonna have to
Impersonal
read
what?
this.
Means?
Instrument or means.
53 times.
I want to cover 2 more exercises if that works with us. Go.
I've got time.
Okay. That way each one of you has had time to go over 2 of these today.
Less said.
Okay. Number B under there, oh, we already did. Y is guards,
Post
post positive.
positive.
Okay. C, what is the subject of pistuitai?
One.
Righteousness. What? Dang, one.
Person.
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 Yeah, person. 1, he, she, or it. It's unexpressed. We don't know for sure. So I put 1 in quotations. And I put that there to allow it to be man or woman, whoever it is. Okay. Number 5. Robin gets to read this for us.
Okay. Pahuias tu theou kerusai agapen kai alephaiam. The Son of God.
From the
Whoa, what?
Son of God.
Son of the God.
Okay.
But we don't say that because it's awkward English, Peg. The Son of God, so we're in middle or passive. Oh, but no, we're not. Sorry,
Very good.
we're not. He proclaims or preaches, he proclaims. Where is proclaiming agape? Oh my gosh. It's got something to do with love.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it
Can we
is.
just say
Okay,
love?
okay, is, because it's in the accusative, is that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Love and truth.
There we go. And that's pretty good.
The Son of God proclaims love and truth, or is proclaiming love and truth.
Okay, so the first question is the phrase "ha huios tu theou" translated the Son of God or the Son from God?
That's what it says.
Well, we would say the Son of God, I think, but the truth is it means the same thing to me.
And one of the significance is, and we don't know if this comes to us in Greek from Hebrew, but in Hebrew, we have what's called the construct state. And so we have like an expression in the Hebrew that said the angel of Jehovah, or the angel of the Lord. And that's the angel who is the Lord. In the construct state is what is the way it's describing it. And therefore, in that case, I think when we say Son of God, we're saying God's Son or the Son who is God. It gave that emphasis. See, we don't
That was how
appreciate
they
that.
would have heard it.
They would have heard that. So let's just put it this way. When Jesus claimed he was the Son of God, the Jews became irate because they understood that to be a claim to be God. We don't read it that way. I still remember one of the ladies in our church asked us to pray for a lady here in the community that was talking to her, and her son had started at that time dating a Mormon, and this lady in our church told this other lady, she goes, well, the Mormons believe that Jesus, they don't believe Jesus is God. And this lady goes, Jesus is God? I didn't know that. I thought he was the Son of God. That's what she said. And so then this lady in our church went on to explain to her that Son of God for the Jews meant a claim to be God. Okay. And so this is the way the Jews heard it. We may understand it different 20 centuries later reading English because we've had a lot of other stuff go on in between. But the Jews plainly, if you go through the New Testament, were very irate when he claimed to be this. So
Seems
I
like
would
we should
take,
change the way that we translate that so it makes more sense to the modern day hearer.
yeah, because Son of God it's plain, straightforward, but it doesn't necessarily give the full flavor of
Right, it
what
doesn't
the
have-
way a Jew heard it.
Right, it doesn't have the same meaning for us today that it did.
Yeah.
When Jesus was walking around there and talking and speaking, was he doing it in Hebrew or in Koine Greek?
Yes.
There is a
Because
there is a teacher down at the Master's Seminary down in LA area that he has tried to make a case that there are certain things that are said in the New Testament that if it came from the mouth of Jesus, if it wasn't stated in Greek, the Hebrew would not have been as distinct. I don't understand it well enough to understand all of what he said. In other words, the Hebrew would not have been as clear as the Greek seems to be, and the issue hangs on the clarity of what that thing is saying. However, most modern scholars think that they weren't even speaking either one of those. They think they were speaking Aramaic, although the New Testament doesn't say that. The New Testament actually says they spoke in Hebrew. In fact, when Pilate put the sign over Jesus on Jesus's cross of the accusation, the charge against him, why they did that for everybody they executed. They always put a sign so people knew what they did wrong. On that sign, it says he wrote it in Hebristic. So it was in Hebrew, not Aramaic. And people
so
go,
do you think the New Testament was written in Koine because of the Paul's assignments to go out to the Gentiles, to the nations?
That's right. It was the common language. Hebrew was a specialized language limited to a certain people, but people that were Greek. In fact, I just listened to a guy the other day that was talking to somebody else, and he made the wrong. He was not a saved man, but he was making a charge against the scripture. He goes, well, Peter and those guys, they were Jews. They spoke Hebrew. They didn't speak Greek. Well, they did speak Greek. You know why? Because they were businessmen. And if you wanted to do business with people, you had to speak their language. Okay. Just like we have lots of Mexican workers that come up here, if they're going to function in our local society here, they have to learn Greek to do business at the bank and
You
the
have to
post.
learn Spanish, English, not Greek.
Did I say Greek?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
So just further it makes me think, ask the question because of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, perhaps.
Yeah.
They were written in Koine Greek, right? So if they're part of the old, why not in Hebrew or Aramaic or something? I don't know.
Well, I just say this is interesting. Papias, who was right at the end of the first century, a hearer of John. I might be wrong in that. I think it's his teacher was, but he writes about Matthew, says Matthew first wrote in Hebrew and then translated it over into Greek. So apparently Matthew first wrote a Hebrew version of his gospel and then wrote a Greek version of the gospel. And we don't say translated, but he wrote. So he wrote two. There were two versions of his gospel. Only one of them became scripture. We have no copy evidence outside of Papias' statement of a Hebrew account.
Interesting.
It's freshly.
But it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
That he would do something in Hebrew first.
Okay, let's go on. 5B, both agapein and aletheon are first declension accusative singular feminine nouns that function as a compound direct object. Why do the endings of these nouns differ? Now, compound direct object is, I think most of us can get it, he heralds love and truth. They're both things are part of what he's heralding. He's not heralding one and we don't know what this other thing is about. No, we understand that. But why are the endings different between agapein and aletheon?
Because aletheia ends in an iota.
It does. So we switch over to the alpha endings rather than the eta endings. Good.
Because of the rules, man, because of the rules, that's why.
It's a rule.
Okay, this will be our last one for today. Joe, number 6, top of page 8.
Okay.
Oh, just a moment here. Peggy was writing something for herself here. Got it? Okay. Number 6.
Archontai, Balain, Lithus, Pros, Hamartulus. They began to throw stones at the sinners.
Mostly correct. With
No? Okay.
I totally
Right.
heard baby.
They all?
Yeah.
Or they?
So read it. So read it again.
So they are beginning or they?
Oh, there you go. See, you translated last time. They began.
Okay.
They are
Yeah,
beginning.
they are beginning to throw stones at the sinners.
Did you also say they begin?
Or they begin. Yes, begin.
Or they began?
Yeah. Or they are beginning.
They are beginning.
Beginning is past, or began is past.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
They are beginning to throw stones at the sinners. Okay.
No, the
At sinners, not the at, right?
At sinners or at the sinners?
And I put at there, but I put parenthesis in 2 because pros has that sense, just for clarity for myself. But at
So
That makes good English
They're
sense.
throwing stones to sinners?
Yeah, see, that doesn't make sense. That's why I translated it at. So
Right.
again, it
Toward
shows you that there's a
the sinners.
breadth of meaning. You guys, you're all studying Greek, so you need to learn there's an expression called semantic domain. So simply a way of saying that there's a number of ways to translate or represent terms. Okay.
Toward sinners?
Towards sinners or at sinners. I would say at just is good English. Is good English.
Like, what gives a better picture?
It does. Okay, A, what is unusual about the result of the change in voice of archontai?
I put in the middle voice, archontai is followed by the infinitive, Balain.
Okay, say it again.
I just put in the middle voice, archontai is followed by the infinitive.
Okay.
So is that unusual? I think so. I don't know.
Well, what they're asking is what's unusual about the result of the change in voice?
Right, so archontai, if we use it as middle, they themselves began.
There we go.
They themselves began.
And what kind of a middle is that, Joe? That's
That would, what kind of middle is that? It's a not reflexive, but that would be the, hold on. I know I've been talking about it a lot.
It's an
What is it?
intensive middle,
Yeah.
that's right.
Intensive middle, right, right.
They themselves begin to throw. And if it was passive.
Yeah, that would, yeah, I don't even know how you would represent that.
Yeah, I don't know.
What it's asking though?
Well,
In the change of voice.
It could be,
change to
is it intensive or began? Because they began, it's an intensive, right?
right, and because remember, if archontai is,
Hey,
It's strong involvement.
the voice is active, arco usually means, excuse me, in the active, arco usually means I rule. But when you change it to the middle voice,
Archomai.
then it becomes, then it
Oh,
becomes,
so it's
I begin.
asking, changing from active to middle, not from middle to passive.
right,
Okay.
yes, yes.
I see.
And it's,
So
and
what is
it
unusual about it is that it totally changes the meaning of the word.
does. And
Okay.
you're going to find words that the change from an active voice to a middle passive voice or middle voice does indeed have a different emphasis or a different meaning.
I see.
So. Okay. And I also would agree that it is an intensive middle in this case. So they themselves, so it's really holding them responsible. B, what part of speech is malign?
So that's infinitive.
It is. And what is the significance of this part?
It's a verb with a hybrid noun and noun and verb, right?
That's
With
right.
the pronoun there.
It's a verb that acts as a substantive.
It does. Or sometimes we call those a verbal noun.
Verbal noun. There you go.
And as we said earlier, a lot of times it functions as part of the object. When we would expect following a verb, we would expect an accusative noun. Doesn't really work with begin. Begin is one of those words. It seems like it almost needs an infinitive verb after it to tell you it begins what, because it's answering the question what, like an accusative does. C, what is the function of lithus in this sentence?
Lithus is in the accusative, so I put it's the object of the action, right?
Okay. And it's the object of what specifically?
Of what they're throwing.
That's right. So it's the object of the infinitive verb, exactly, or the infinitive. And what is the significance of this function, the accusative?
The significance?
Yeah.
That's what they're limited to. It's
It
the
is.
stones is the only thing.
Yeah, they're not throwing just anything. They're not throwing dispersions. They're
It
throwing.
limits the, okay.
Okay. Okay, today's Thursday. Boy, I tell you, this week has been mixed up. I'm going to end